So let me ask you a question that's on a lot of people's minds about COVID-19. So brands have responded to the crisis in different ways. And as Asia's leading fashion destination, how has Zalora responded to the pandemic?
So I think for us, we know that we're not an essentials player, and that's one of the things that has complicated um, the whole scenario for us. But one of the good things is that we are an e-commerce player and that we are not as hard hit as some of our brick and mortar partners. What happened is that when a lot of these stores have was forced to close given the restrictions across the markets that we're in, a lot of them really pumped a lot of their online strategy, and being Zalora as a partner and that we've consistently proven that we're an effective partner for them. They've doubled up a lot of their products, and then suddenly there's an influx of it. You've seen on Zalora, but at the same time, we knew that we needed to be more than just a fashion retailer and started offering access to some of the um, essential products to a lot of our customers because people are running out of hand sanitizers, of masks, and all this stuff. So one of the things is that we leverage our strength and basically offered a lot of the brands that are not necessarily in fashion but are basic necessities to be able to reach these new consumers through Zalora's efficient operation system. So there was a slight pivot on what we do, but I think it's an essential pivot for us to be able to not only provide for the community but really be helpful for a lot of the brands. In effect, having all these essential categories online also helps the searchability and SEO of a lot of the visibility of the fashion brands that we have. So you can now not only buy your mask, you can look for matching dress or outfit with it. And I think that's one of the things that we've have encountered immediately 2 weeks after the restrictions for COVID-19 have set in.
And will Zalora be keeping to featuring fashion essentials as a core offering even after COVID-19?
I think right now it's hard to tell what's gonna happen, but I think throughout history we've had introduced a lot of categories. We're primarily a women's apparel before. We've introduced men's category. We've introduced our own private label. In the last 12 months, we've introduced a kids category, knowing that after 8 years of existence, some of our first consumers are actually moms right now. So it just makes sense for us to offer 70% of of our customers who are female who will eventually become moms to have access to baby clothes. We also introduced a pre-love category because we wanted to invest more on improving circular economy and coming into the circular fashion, and had our sustainability goals introduced. So introducing an essentials category is not something that unheard of, in the sense that we've traditionally been introducing new categories every now and then. Whether or not it's going to stay, I think, at the end of the day, data is where we look at how things are going. If there's a demand and a need for it, then we do try to provide it. But of course, we'll never know what's going to be the next best thing or big thing for a lot of consumers in the next 5 years. So for now, we're keeping it. But in the long run, it's never going to be something permanent. I guess it's really about following what consumers want, and then this is always a changing behavior across.
And you've been able to be so responsive to your consumers because you are one of the most data-driven companies. Not only are you able to make data-driven decisions, but I think you've also been able to embrace, to some degree, machine learning to keep your shoppers at the heart of the Zalora experience. What approach have you taken in building up the Zalora tech stack? And what advice would you give to PR practitioners who are keen to also acquire this sense of data and tech-driven literacy?
So I think three things. One is that in Zalora, we're fortunate enough to be, digital natives. The nature of the company itself, 1/3 of the company are tech. But it doesn't mean that if you're a non-tech company that you won't be able to have this. Because even with a lot of tech people within the company, I think what we did is to be able to scale up, is to be able to partner with, third-party platforms in order for us to be able to offer a lot of features that we have. For example, we've partner with VSense, who help us with our visual search that has increased dramatically on how we get people to shop their favorite clothes. They can just upload a photo of whatever they inspired them in Pinterest, or snap a photo of an outfit they saw on the street. These are platforms that were created together with third-party partners. We had Blue, who is helping us with insights. It's also with the Blue that we're able to launch our data platform initiative called the Trender. We've launched this 6 weeks ago, and it's helping a lot of the partner brands that we have to navigate COVID-19. We actually had a webinar last week to talk about the trends that we've seen and the insights that we've seen, and shared with our brand partners and industry partners on what we're seeing, where the direction will be for fashion and retail. And of course, we have multiple other platforms like the SAP for HANA and all this stuff to help us run efficiently as an organization. I
So
think
go
looking
ahead.
into getting platforms is a good way of having it.
Bring. What is Zalora's take on trendsetters and social influencers, and what do you look out for when you approach these personalities for partnerships?
So I think for us with influencers, given the nature of the business, we are a very visual heavy kind of business. It's an aspirational business because it's in fashion. So we definitely have to have a concrete and very strong influencer engagement strategy. We actually have a spread team that actually takes care of an influencer network. We've built up an influencer network which we call Z Crew. These are a handful of influencers between 10 to 20 in each markets that we work with for the rest of the year. Some of them get renewed, some of them we try out. They represent different segments of fashion. But basically, we have this crew that gives us, 24/7 type of engagement. And it's easy tap for us to run campaigns with. But we also work with influencers on our own. We currently don't use an influencer agency right now, but what we do is to dedicate, as part of the initiative, to have dedicated people to work on it. We've also managed to track business contribution of these influencers. We know, and this is how influencers are getting reviewed and renewed every year. Um, just like last year, we have millions of euros that have been contributed by sales driven by influencers. So I think for us, we know that influencers play a part in what we do, given that it's a very visual heavy kind of industry. But what needed to be done was, how do we really make it more than just a branding activity, but something that can contribute back to the business. And that's how we try to monetize our partnership with the influencers, by having shared revenue models with them, giving them codes, and being able to try to help grow with them. So one of the things we've done in the first 3 years that we've done this is to grow with an influencer. We started with smaller influencers with 12,000, 14,000 followers. Now they have your 50 to 80,000. So because they have that deep rooted, relationship with you, you will always have that relationship working for you and the brand, because you join it with them, and that worked really well for us. And that's how we look at influencers across markets that we do.
And what is Zalora's approach to new social media platforms? The next shiny thing. Like, for example, what is your take on TikTok? And have you written off Facebook already?
No, definitely not writing off Facebook and Instagram. They're still our closest partner. We know that those platforms work. Those platforms has very clear attribution models, and helps us, calculate how much, visits, how much revenue we can get from all our partnerships. So it's very clear that it's a continuing partnership, and we've been fortunate enough to be part of test groups whenever they have to roll out some new features. So that's always been pretty good relationship. Just like last week in the webinar, Facebook was actually one of the partners that went on in the webinar with us. With regards to TikTok, I think we're never going to be something that's just going to look at it. We have been trying it. We're actually one of the first e-commerce company who have tried doing a hashtag challenge. We launched this in September last year. It's been documented in some publications during the Zalora Fashion Festival. We've seen some results, but I think It was a long conversation with TikTok when we had to measure whatever their contribution will be, because they are new, there's a lot of unknown variable to it. And the thing is, when we try to launch into something, a new platform, we needed to make sure that what we measure is what we really wanted as a result. So I think gone are the days when, the bosses will only like watch out for the AVEs, and it's like, oh, this is the clipping on this, on Vogue or in Bazaar or in Straits Times or New York Times. They're also looking after what really is a contribution of the PR department or communications department, apart from the branding activity that you do. So I think that's how we had been rethinking about the company. And when I first joined Zalora in 2014, it's one of those things that I try to incorporate as best in class practice across teams in the region. And we're seeing the fruits of it right now, because we can actually measure how much contribution we're giving to the business, on top of the branding activity and awareness that we bring into them.
I'm just posed a question to you, Chris, about your journey in Zalora. You steered the brand and the communications team from ground zero to a multi-market team that's serving at least 7 markets. It became a subsidiary of the Global Fashion Group,
Yeah.
a $2 billion company that was listed on the Frankfurt
Yeah.
Exchange last year. And that's quite a journey. What lessons did you learn from that whole experience?
I think it's aside from really testing resilience and agility, it's a good thing I came from an agency. So these are things that I've been prepared to do. The biggest lesson really is about there's no easy way to anything good. I mean, in order for us to evolve and still be relevant, we've had to change business models, our way of thinking so many times. And I think it's all about relevance. Being a brand that's relevant to the company, relevant to the consumers, is a pretty important factor to consider whenever you're seeing, why am I not having enough people coming into the website and all this stuff. And that's why when you ask me about categories, we've introduced different categories, we've pivoted in a lot of things. It's mainly because it's driven by what the demand is, and what we think will be the next best thing. And data has been always a good tool for us. And likewise, if you're in a company in a hypergrowth stage, be open to a lot of changes. Not a lot of people will be open to these changes. It's not always rosy and peachy. You need to roll up your sleeves. But I think being able to be agile across the last 6 years that I've been with Zalora has been a very fulfilling journey.
So speaking about relevance, right? Aside from being accused of promoting superficial beauty and self-image issues, some global reports indicate that the fashion industry also produce around 13 million tons of textile waste each year, and they are a major contributor to water pollution, plastic pollution, greenhouse gas emission. What is Zalora's response to these charges of fashion's unfashionable environmental and social track record?
I think, as you may know, I've been in fashion for the last 13 years. So this is not something new. It's something that we've had to deal with ever since. But at the end of the day, what are we really trying to do, and what are we doing? I'm heartened to see that a lot more fashion companies are taking this very seriously, and a lot of consumers are demanding from fashion brands. And I'm proud to say that Zalora is actually one of the more responsible, if not the most responsible, fashion players or e-commerce players in the industry right now. Three things. One, we've published a sustainability strategy. You can go to the website, you can look at it, you can look at LinkedIn on what are the sustainability commitments. We've given ourselves 5-year targets on what we plan to do, including having zero to landfill packaging targets. We've actually started our sustainability journey last year when we started incorporating circular, having pre-love items as part of our assortment that helps to promote the circular economy. We wanted to make sure that people have the option to opt in and buy into something that, if you want to have a Gucci bag, they may not necessarily be new. You can buy a second-hand one. It's equally nice. It's it's well kept. It's also something that you do when you try to keep economy We've also been going to be launching in the next 2 months our first sustainable fashion wear collection in partnership with Tencel. And moving forward, we're looking at making most of our private label, if not our entire private label, made of sustainable materials. When you go to the website, you actually can filter and shop sustainable products and that are made from sustainable materials or are produced sustainably. So having those sustainability features can actually help consumers decide whether or not they want to promote that. We have more initiatives that are lined up. Some of them are already ongoing with our factory partners. What we do is not only select the factory that we work with in terms of producing the clothes, but we also try to teach them how to achieve more sustainable practices. So there's a mentoring and there's a partnership that's in there. So we not only select them because there already are um, category B or category A in terms of sustainability ranking, but we're also trying to make them a little bit to improve that sustainability ranking so that eventually all of them will be rated A and will be happy, and we'll always be happy to say that all our clothes are made from sustainable practices and stuff. So there's an audit that's ongoing every year. So we try to make it 360 as much as possible from the plastics that we have. Our current plastic is now already biodegradable, but even that we're trying to think of packaging of how to do it more environmentally friendly. So goes with our offices and our warehouses. We're installing some of the energy features to save. We're also looking into making our operations efficient in terms of carbon emissions.
And now I'm going to pivot to the other end of the spectrum, which is we talked about sustainability and the
Yeah.
environment. I want to talk about the luxury segment. And for the longest time, the luxury segment has been quite hesitant in coming online and having that online presence if it detracts from the in-store experience. What is Zalora's point of view like around taking the luxury experience online? And do you think this differs from market to market? Japan, for example, has been overlooked for online luxury consumption in general. So what are your thoughts around that?
I think, a lot of the things we're seeing at the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated a lot of the adoption online. The luxury experience, yes, there's the experience of the brick and mortar store. There's always that, wow experience. But part of that experience is also about access. With luxury items, there will always be aspirational brands. There will always be aspirational pieces. And I think, with these aspirational pieces, one of the things is people in tier B, tier C cities may not be able to go to, capitals like Manila or Hong Kong just to buy one piece of bag. But they would love to have that if they save enough money for that. So be able to have access to it not only gives the brand, the opportunity to reach new customer base, but definitely expands the accessibility of it to more customers across. For example, when you look at Indonesia and the Philippines combined, they have 20,000 islands. Imagine all those cities having access in one go, and not only just the capital cities when it comes to access. So it's both an opportunity for the consumers and an opportunity for the brands to get new consumers in, because I think that's the way fashion is going. It's not going to say that the brick and mortar will die out. It's about having an omni-channel approach across, and I think more brands have discovered that this is the case given the pandemic, wherein a lot of them, when they shut off their stores, the only way they can actually reach customers is to actually be online right now, and has proving that it is a manageable type of business.
Earlier, you talked about platforms,
Yeah.
analytics platforms, VSense, a bit of machine learning. Regarding marketing platforms in particular, are you using any influencer marketing platforms or marketing platforms in general?
Currently, no. I think with marketing platforms, we do. This is where our own tech staff has been working on. We have our own attribution. We have our own attribution system within Zalora. We figured out how to be able to link contribution of these influencers, or even to our social media. When you see how our social media channels are, it's a mix of brand and sales, and I think that's where the potency of it comes in. Even Facebook itself has rolled out their shop function. They also have the shop account already, knowing that a lot of this is an access for a lot of people. So I think for us, we have been doing it on our own. It has been something that we have been working on for the last few years. It's primarily because when you look at where the direction of fashion is, it's always going to be visual, and the best way to sell is when provided to them the moment that they want it, because it's very like on the spot kind of one.
Mm-hmm. In this whole rapidly changing and evolving landscape, right? You talked about fast response.
Yeah.
Um, what is Zalora's sense of purpose in the world today, and that sense of purpose that hasn't changed amid all these broader changes that are happening in the environment?
Yeah, for us, we've always stuck with our mission to connect everyone to the limitless world of fashion. It has so many layers. Even the word connect, I mean, connect because we're online, connect because it's what we do, accessibility to brands, access of consumers to brands, access of their favorite brands from the website. But what fashion really represents is about, feeling good about yourself, confidence building, expression, and all that stuff. To be able to provide good access to them, and we've built our operations to fulfill next day delivery to most of our markets. We've tried to make sure that the look and feel of the website is starkly different from general merchandisers, because we are fashion first to begin with. Uh, it's about keeping true to our DNA, that we will eventually connect everyone in Southeast Asia to have fashion as a centerpiece of what we do is success.
Are communicators doing enough to give back? And how has giving back shaped you as a communication professional?
I think giving back is something that is everyone's responsibility. As a person, I think I've always championed the whole idea that people should be kind to one another. Even in communications, that's always my approach, to be more empathic and to the journalists, to my team members. That's how I manage my team, because the more human you are, the better that you can communicate things. And even as a brand, I think if you humanize a lot of the messages that we have, no matter how corporate they are, they will be more accepting. The consumers or your customers, your audience will be more accepting on what you communicate if you deal with them a little bit more human. Just because it is what we do, right? You're communicating to humans, you communicate as human, even if you're a brand, even as a person. So this has always been something that I've been passionate about. With regards to, are we doing enough? We could certainly do more, but I do think that we do have some difficult restrictions every now and then. But whenever there's a chance for you to do more, especially during this pandemic, or whenever there's the seasonality of it, always try to push a little bit of that. It's not just about CSR, it's about being a responsible citizen in the community, and especially in hard times. We are looking at it as now consumers are going to remember who are the brands who are responsible enough, who are one with them during these difficult times. And that's one of those things that you cannot take away. How consumers and your audience looks at you as a person and as a brand will matter the most on how you act. So do it not just because for CSR or branding activity, but do it because it's the right thing to do.
Now, speaking about community, I'm now at my last question for you. It's around 5:30. What is the relevance of a convening body like IPRS, and what does being a member of this community mean to you?
I think having a convening body like IPRS can give us a lot of purpose as an industry. Having a structured method of mentorship, access to a network of different professionals in different stages of their career will be able to mentor the younger professionals will be able to share more best practices, such as this platform wherein we're talking about, our journeys, and people can ask a lot of questions. Sometimes, being comms people, we are always stuck in, our desks behind our laptops, or just managing a lot of the crisis. But we're actually a bigger community out there. We can only share the pain and the joy of what we do to other people who are doing exactly what we do, and having a body to look after that, to look after the welfare, to look after how we can effectively communicate with each other and have these opportunities across the industry, across people who are practicing, is a great way of making sure that we have progressively improve the industry and the profession itself.
Great. And on that note, Chris, I'd like to thank you very much for giving us these insights. Welcome to the IPRS community. And I'm sure that the community will be immensely enriched by your contributions of generous thoughts and insights from leaders like you. So with that, thank you very much.